we are down the stretch run of the fantasy football season. So every decision so much more important as we go along. And so Firebro is asking, been talking to a lot of my fantasy friends, and they say, oh, stay with Caleb Williams. He's consistent against good teams and great against bad teams. My concern is the wide receiver talent and other YouTubers' advice. And so we're looking at Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott for the quarterback situation, since they are available in this league. I would want to look at the schedule. I think you are, again, fair in being worried about Caleb Williams. I felt like a Caleb Williams defender at the beginning part of the season. I thought there were some people being like, oh, nope, see, obviously doesn't have it. He sucks. Too bad. I thought there was a little bit more there when people were giving him credit, but now, or weren't giving him credit, sorry. But now that people aren't giving him credit, I think there's maybe a little more, or maybe a little less there than people are giving him credit for. So it's really interesting to see how that has shifted here. Just gonna move a little closer. Taking a look at the matchups for this week, Caleb Williams against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Brock Purdy for San Francisco. They get Carolina on Monday night, and Dak Prescott and the Cowboys face the Eagles. That one is the late afternoon game that everyone is going to be paying attention to, obviously, aside from Falcons and Saints. So, looking at those three quarterbacks, like Caleb has a decent matchup this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Purdy has the best matchup going up against Carolina, and Dak probably is the best of the three and has the best offense. And so with that, I would go with Dak Prescott. I get it's Philadelphia. It's a pretty good defense, but it hasn't been unstoppable this season. And Dallas has been able to put up some numbers on them this year already. So I think that there is an opportunity for Dak to have a pretty good week this week in that spot. I would go him over Caleb Williams. Absolutely, I would. And rest of the way, I would feel more comfortable with Dak as well. That defense maybe a little bit better coming off of the trade deadline, but still, you know they're going to be in just some wild shootouts the rest of the way. And the schedule, they have Eagles this week, Chiefs next week, which is a tough one on American Thanksgiving. After that, a Thursday night game against Detroit that they can, I think, again, points will be scored. We'll just put it that way. Vikings defense doesn't totally scare you. Chargers defense is wearing out a little bit, and the Commanders. So it's a decent spot for Dak the rest of the way. I don't mind going him over Caleb Williams. I have Joe Burrow on IR, which is insanely risky. I'm going to assume Joe Burrow isn't coming back. Now, I wouldn't drop him because it might be worth it to hold on to him, but given that the Bengals are falling further and further out of contention, I would be surprised if they bring Burrow back for a couple meaningless games at the end of the season. But right now, of those three quarterbacks we talked about, Purdy, Williams, or Dak, those are the ones that I would go with. And yeah, you're right, Fire Bros. Like, not sure he's coming back, but Flacco cooling down, in my opinion. He is. We talked about him in our waiver wire rebound. You'll be able to check that out either on the replay of this or it'll be posted as its own segment a little bit later on today. But all right matchup for Flacco this week. But yeah, rest of the season, that there isn't a whole lot there. And you can see where they would want to bring Burrow in, but I feel like the season might be done. Just don't risk Burrow behind that offensive line any more than you have to. So looking at it for this week, I would go Dak. And I just want to check out the schedule here very, very quickly. Apologies, don't have these just off the top of the dome. But looking at the schedule the rest of the way, this would have to be an insanely good one for me to pick Williams over Dak. And it's all right. The Black Friday game against the Eagles after this game with the Steelers, then at Packers, home Browns, home Packers, at 49ers, and home Lions in Week 18, which shouldn't be playing fantasy football then anyway. It's a good schedule for a quarterback. It's not a great one. It's not enough to offset me thinking that Dak is a better quarterback than Caleb Williams. And then for the 49ers, the schedule the rest of the way for them. Panthers this week, it's a good matchup. Browns next week, they still kind of scare me given how good that defense can be. They have a bye in week 14, which sucks. And then fantasy playoffs, it is the Titans, the Colts, and the Bears. So some weeks where Purdy can put up some numbers. I would still rank it this week and rest of season. Dak, Purdy, and then Caleb Williams at number 3. I think he's good, but I don't think he's great. And I do think that there is maybe a little bit of concern with some of the inconsistencies that are happening on the offensive side there in Chicago. So I think you are right to be a little bit like, there might be a little bit something off with this particular situation. I would like the Dak spot and I would like the Purdy spot just a little bit better there, in my opinion. Keep the fantasy football questions coming. Like I said, you can let me know in the chat whenever. I'm, again, shifting away, but we can talk about whatever you want. I promise I get back to it as soon as I see the chat and once I'm done talking about whatever it is that I am talking about. Fire Bros again. Oh, I've been keeping the Browns defense fierce competitors. Like Myles Garrett himself is a game wrecker, right? So that's a good defense and one that would concern me to go up against from a fantasy football standpoint. But it's also not one that if I have a clear advantage, I'm like, we're not, oh my gosh, Dak is facing the Browns, or I think it was Purdy. Purdy is facing the Browns. Well, I have to go out and pick up Tyler Shook then. Like, it's not to that level. It's just a, wish you weren't. Wished you weren't playing them this week. That's the kind of the level that they are at this particular moment. So again, keep those fantasy football questions coming in, or questions about anything else. If you want to talk about anything else in the chat, you can fire away and let me know. And whatever we're talking about, we'll pivot and get back to it once that segment is done.